Dear Diary, a glove. A single glove, white, with crystals that shone like tiny diamonds. No one knew, on that night of March 25th, 1983, that this glove was about to change everything. But before I tell you about that night at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium, I need to tell you about the people. The people who slept on the sidewalk, the people who waited for hours, the people like me. Because this isn't just the story of Michael Jackson. It's the story of U.S., the fans, March 1983. While America was still struggling with unemployment and racial division, something extraordinary was happening in the streets, in the schools, in the shopping centers. Michaelmania, it wasn't just fanaticism, it was a movement across the country and soon across the world. Fan clubs were being born. Not the old fan clubs that sent letters through the mail. No, these were different. Girls gathered in school libraries after classes, cutting out photos from Teen Beat and Right On magazine. Boys practiced Michael's dance moves in their garages, watching Beat It on MTV again and again and again. In Los Angeles, the fan club Thriller Squad had more than 500 members. In New York, MJ Forever met every Saturday in Central Park. In Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, in every city, there were groups, and they all had one thing in common. They loved Michael Jackson with an intensity that scared their parents. Mothers said, "It's just a phase." But it wasn't. Oh, it wasn't. When it was announced that Michael would perform at the Motown 25 special, something incredible happened. The Pasadena Civic Auditorium had a capacity for 3,000 people, only 3,000. But when tickets went on sale, 50,000 people tried to buy them. 50,000 people for 3,000 seats. Fans camped in front of the box office for 3 days before the sale. They brought sleeping bags, food, portable radios. They made friendships that would last a lifetime. A 16-year-old fan named Jennifer from Inglewood later said, "My mom thought I was crazy, sleeping on the street for a singer. But I said, 'Mom, you don't understand. This is history. This is Michael Jackson.' And she was right. The tickets sold out in 4 hours. 4 hours for 3,000 tickets. Thousands were left outside, crying, begging, offering double, triple the price. A ticket that cost $25 was being resold for $200. A fortune in 1983, when minimum wage was $3.35 per hour. But the funds paid. Because seeing Michael live, it was a dream. It was everything. But while the fans of Black, White, Asian, Latino united through their love for Michael, the America outside was still divided. March 1983, unemployment had reached 10.8% in December. But for Black Americans, it was double that, more than 20%. MTV, which had finally started playing Billie Jean after a threat from record executive Walter Yet, still resisted, still questioned, still doubted that a Black artist could be mainstream. But the fans didn't see color. They saw talent, they saw magic, they saw someone who danced as if gravity was only a suggestion. And on that night of March 25th, 3,000 of those people, the people who had slept on the sidewalk, who had paid a fortune, who had dreamed of that moment, were about to witness something impossible. On March 25th, 1983, over 47 million people tuned in to watch the Motown 25 TV special. They were expecting a nostalgic reunion of the Jackson 5, but what they were about to witness was something nobody could have ever predicted. It was the night a pop star became a legend, a night that would change music history forever. But backstage, there was a secret nobody knew. Michael Jackson almost didn't show up. Just 10 days before the show, Michael had said no. He was a solo artist now, and a massive one at that. He had just released Thriller, which was on its way to becoming the best-selling album of all time. Billie Jean was the #1 song in the world. He was finally stepping out of the shadow of his brothers, proving he was more than just the little kid from the Jackson 5. So why go back? Why sing old songs for a Motown special? His frustration was understandable. He didn't want to look backward. But then, Berry Gordy paid him a visit. Gordy was the legendary founder of Motown, the man who discovered the Jackson 5 back in 1969. He saw the genius in an 11-year-old Michael when no one else did. To Michael, Berry was like a father. And when a father figure asks you for a favor, it's hard to refuse. Michael finally agreed, but he had one non-negotiable condition. "I'll do the reunion with my brothers," he said, "but after we're done, I want to perform Billie Jean. By myself, alone." The Motown executives were stunned. This was a celebration of Motown music, and Billie Jean wasn't a Motown song. It was released on Epic Records. They argued, "Michael, the show is about Motown." But Michael held his ground. He simply said it's this or it's nothing. He was betting on himself, on his new vision, and Berry Gordy, looking at the determined 24-year-old in front of him, made a decision that would change everything. He said, "Okay." No one in the audience knew this. They had no idea that Michael was about to do something far beyond a Jackson 5 reunion. It was a secret, but Michael had another secret, one he'd been holding on to for 2 long years. During rehearsals for the show, he was mysterious. He danced with his brothers, but he never revealed his full plan for the solo spot. His brothers would ask, "Michael, what are you going to do for Billie Jean?" He'd just smile and say, "You'll see." Because he had an ace up his sleeve. A move so unique, so mind-bending, that he was saving it for the perfect moment. Let's rewind to June 1981. A dancer named Jaron Casper Candidate, one of the pioneers of popping and locking, spent an entire week teaching Michael a single move. It was a backward slide, but it looked utterly impossible. It was an illusion, making it seem like the dancer was gliding effortlessly, defying the laws of gravity. It was as if he was walking on the moon. The Moonwalk. Michael had been practicing it in private, perfecting it, waiting for the right stage, the right audience, the right time to unveil it. And that time was now. The night before the Motown 25 taping, Michael was at home. He wasn't resting. He was in his kitchen, the cold floor serving as his dance studio. He put on his shoes and started practicing, sliding backward again and again. His mother, Catherine, found him there late at night. "Michael, what are you doing?" she asked. "You've already rehearsed." He just smiled and said, "Not this, Mom. This is ... different." She didn't quite understand, but she let him be. She watched her son practice until every single motion was flawless, until he was ready to show the world something it had never seen before. The next day, he would walk on stage, and with one performance, he wouldn't just be a star, he would become a phenomenon. It's 8 p.m. at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium. The lights go completely dark, and the entire place erupts in screams. Diana Ross is the first to appear, walking right down the aisle singing "Ain't No Mountain High Enough." The crowd is on its feet, screaming, some even crying. The older fans, the ones who grew up with Motown, are overwhelmed with emotion, seeing their legends back on stage. Marvin Gaye sings "What's Going On." Stevie Wonder is brilliant. The Supremes reunite. It's a night of legends. But Michael's fans, they're getting anxious, restless. They keep wondering, when is it his turn? I spoke to Maria, a fan who was in the 3rd row that night. She told me, every time an artist finished, we thought, now, is it Michael now? And it wasn't. We just kept waiting. I was so nervous, my hands were sweating. I couldn't stand still. And then, the announcer's voice booms. Ladies and gentlemen, the Jackson 5. The crowd goes absolutely wild. But there's something different tonight. Something special. Jermaine is there. Jermaine, who had left the group back in 1975 for the first time in 8 long years. All the Jackson brothers are on the same stage again. They start singing "I Want You Back," and the crowd sings along with every single word. Then "The Love You Save" and never can say goodbye. And then they begin "I'll be there," and something magical happens. Jermaine's microphone suddenly fails. It just stops working right in the middle of the song. For a split second, there's a sense of panic. But then, Michael grabs Jermaine's hand and pulls him close, sharing his microphone. The two brothers, singing together on the same mic. The crowd just loses it. People are crying, standing, applauding, screaming. It was beautiful. It was a moment of reconciliation. It was family, Maria said. In that moment, I totally forgot I was waiting for Billie Jean. It was so pure, so beautiful. I cried. My friend next to me cried. I think everyone in that room cried. The brothers hug, wave, and leave the stage. The lights go down. People start picking up their bags, thinking the show is over. And then, bam, 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 bam. The opening beats of Billie Jean explode through the speakers. The entire audience freezes, and then they completely lose their minds. Screams like you've never heard before. People are jumping up and down, hugging total strangers, and Michael walks back onto the stage. Alone, he's wearing a black sequin jacket that sparkles like a galaxy of stars, black pants, and those iconic white socks, shining like headlights, polished black shoes, and, of course, the glove, that single white glove covered in Swarovski crystals, catching every single stage light, and the hat. A black fedora tilted just so, covering his eyes. He stands perfectly still, completely motionless, one arm up, frozen in that iconic pose. Maria told me when I saw him standing there, I couldn't breathe. Literally couldn't breathe. He looked like, I don't know, a prince? An angel? Something not from this world. And then he begins to move. Michael dances like he's possessed by the music. His feet are moving so fast they heed just a blur. He pulls off spins that seem to defy the laws of physics. He stomps the floor, and the sound echoes through the auditorium like thunder. And then it happens. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the song, Michael turns his back to the audience, pauses for just a second, and begins to slide backward without moving his legs, as if he were walking on the moon. The moonwalk. Maria said what happened next was just indescribable. First, there was silence, just for a second. Like everyone's brain was trying to process what they had just seen, and then an explosion. Screams like I had never heard in my entire life. People around me were jumping, crying. A girl actually fainted. Security had to carry her out, up in the VIP box. The legendary Fred Astaire, at 84 years old, stood up and applauded. Gene Kelly's mouth was literally hanging open, and down below, 3,000 fans were living the most important moment of their lives. Michael did the moonwalk again and again. Each time, the crowd screamed even louder. Then he spun, stopping on his tiptoes. For one impossible moment, he stays frozen there on the very tips of his toes. And then he falls into the final pose. One knee bent to arms open, hat dropping to the floor. The lights explode. The music stops, and the entire Pasadena Civic Auditorium, 3,000 people on their feet, screaming, crying, and applauding with a force that felt like it was shaking the entire building. They knew, in that moment, everyone knew. They had just witnessed history. Thanks for watching. The show ended. The lights in the auditorium came back on, but nobody moved. People just sat there, frozen, stunned. A fan named Maria told me I literally couldn't move. My legs wouldn't work. I was shaking. My friend was crying so hard she could barely see. Everyone around us was in shock, like we'd just witnessed something sacred. Outside, hundreds of fans who couldn't get tickets were waiting just to see Michael leave. When the audience started to trickle out, the crowd outside swarmed him, asking, how was it? What did he do? Is he real? And the people who had been inside could barely find the words. He He walked backward, yes, like he was on the moon. He just slid without moving his legs. The people outside thought they were exaggerating, that it was impossible. But then more fans came out, all saying the same thing. And then more and more. Soon, everyone was trying it, right there on the sidewalk in the parking lot, trying to slide backward, falling over, laughing, and trying again. The performance was taped on March 25th, but the TV special wouldn't air until May 16th. For almost 2 months, the fans who were there became legends in their schools and neighborhoods. You were there? You saw it? Maria said she must have told this story 100 times. My classmates made me tell it again and again. Every detail, what he wore, how the glove sparkled, how he slid backward, they didn't fully believe it. But they wanted to. Then came May 16th, 1983, 8 o'clock, NBC. 47 million Americans tuned in, all across the country. Families gathered around their TVs, grandparents, parents, kids. When Michael's performance came on, the world stopped. Maria was watching with the same friends who'd been at the show, she said. Even though we'd seen it live, watching it on TV was different. Now it was real. Now the whole world would see what we saw. And when he did the moonwalk on TV, we screamed. We screamed like it was the very first time. The next morning, everything had changed. In schools, everyone was talking about Michael. Boys were trying to moonwalk in the hallways. Stores sold out of black shoes, white gloves, and fedora hats. Record stores were pure chaos. After Motown 25, Michael Jackson's fan clubs didn't just grow, they exploded. Groups of 100 members suddenly had thousands. They'd meet in parks every weekend to practice dance moves and trade cassette tapes of radio interviews. By 1984, his official international fan club had over 50,000 registered members. When he went on the Victory Tour with his brothers, they sold 1 million tickets in just a few hours. Fans camped out for days. The screams at the concerts were so loud, you could barely hear the music. Paramedics had to carry out dozens of people who fainted at every single show. I asked Maria what it felt like to be so close to him, to see him from the third row. She was quiet for a moment, then said, "It's hard to explain. You know that feeling when you're in love? That feeling in your stomach that nothing else matters. It was like that, but 1,000 times stronger. When I saw him so close, I could see the sweat on his face, see the crystals on his glove shine. I felt like my heart was going to explode. And it wasn't just me, it was everyone. For those 5 minutes he was on stage, nothing else existed. No recession, no problems, nothing. Just Michael, the music and the magic. And when it was over, we felt empty, but also incredibly lucky. Because we were there, we saw it, and no one can ever take that away from us." Double quote. After that night, something extraordinary happened. Children all across America, and soon all across the world, started wearing just one white glove on the left hand. Just like Michael. At school, teachers tried to ban it, yelling, "Take those gloves off." But the students refused. They'd say, "It's in honor of Michael." Department stores couldn't keep Michael Jackson gloves in stock white gloves covered in fake crystals. They sold out constantly. By 1984, over 2 million of these gloves had been sold in the United States alone. The glove became more than just an accessory. It was a symbol of belonging, of being part of something bigger than yourself. When you saw someone else wearing that white glove, you just knew. You knew they were a fan. You knew they understood the magic. And you'd greet each other, complete strangers, because you shared something special. And the moonwalk. Oh, the moonwalk. In every home across America, kids were practicing it. In their kitchens, in their garages, in their living rooms, wearing out the carpet. Brothers were teaching brothers. Cousins were teaching cousins. Friends were teaching friends. Dance tutorial videos popped up everywhere. Dance studios started offering classes dedicated to learning Michael Jackson's moonwalk. But here's the thing. No one could do it exactly like him. No one could ever match that smoothness, that effortless magic, and that, of course, only made him more legendary. But you know what was truly the most important thing about that night? It wasn't the glove, it wasn't the moonwalk, or the record-breaking sales. It was what happened to the fans. A fan who was there, Maria, told me something I'll never forget. She said, in that audience of 3,000 people, there were white people, black people, Asians, Latino. There were rich and poor, young and old. And for those 5 minutes when Michael was on stage, none of that mattered. She continued, the white girl next to me. She hugged me when Michael did the moonwalk. She hugged me like we were childhood friends. And in that moment, we were. Because we loved the same thing. We saw the same magic. Michael Jackson did something presidents can't do, something laws can't do. He united us through music, through dance, through love. Many of the fans who met in that 3-day line to get tickets, in that auditorium, in those fan clubs, they became lifelong friends. Some even got married and had children, and they told those children about that incredible night when Michael passed away in 2009. Those same fans, now in their 40s and 50s, gathered once again outside the UCLA Medical Center, outside Neverland Ranch, outside his childhood home in Gary, Indiana, and they cried together, just as they had screamed with joy together 26 years earlier. Because to them, Michael wasn't just an artist, he was a part of their lives, a part of their souls. When I think about that night, March 25th, 1983, I don't just think about Michael sliding backward. I think about the 3,000 people who witnessed it live. I think about Maria sleeping on the sidewalk for 3 days because she knew it would be special. I think about the 50,000 people who couldn't get tickets and watched on TV 2 months later, heartbroken they weren't there. I think about the millions of fans who, that night in May, watching with their families, felt for the first time what it was to truly love an artist. I think about the black children who saw Makila Black Man commanding that stage with such power, dignity, and magic, and thought to themselves, I can be that. I can be great. And I think about the white children who saw the exact same thing and learned that talent has no color, that genius knows no borders. And I smile because that night wasn't just the night Michael Jackson did the moonwalk. It was the night all of us learned how to dream. March 25th, 1983. The night a single white glove became eternal. The night 3,000 people slept on sidewalks and paid fortunes, all to witness 5 minutes of the impossible. Then, May 16th, 1983. The night 47 million people saw what those 3,000 had seen. And the world was never the same. Neither were we, the fans. Because Michael gave us something no one can ever take away. He gave us memories. He gave us unity. He gave us magic. Forever, Michael, forever in our hearts.